il divorzio. Mi dica da amico.
Is that your basic problem, that you cannot communicate, or is that just a pretext?
Insomma, vuole decidersi a raccontare la trama del...
Le vostre domande tradiscono una certa ostilità. Vi assicuro che il mio regista è in grande...
Ma che si dovrebbe fare? Cos'è che si deve fare?
Interpretato con rispetto.
In the film 8½, one of the great difficulties of the protagonist Guido is to cope with the expectations that everyone has of him. On the other hand, he has put himself in this mess, setting in motion an enormous productive machine that he doesn't know where it wants to lead. In the scene of the press conference, a large number of people, journalists, curious onlookers, and the producer himself aggressively demand information about the film, clear decisions, or even a simple statement from director Guido. But Guido is unable to provide any of this. He avoids the gaze and questions of this inquisitive public, hides under the table and mimes a suicide, which we will understand in subsequent scenes is not real. The entire film is a continuous escape for Guido from responsibility. The film's realization seems to be nothing but a construction that Guido invents to escape from reality, and precisely for this reason, perhaps he has no intention of finishing it. Guido runs away from reality into fiction, and from fiction into reality, never allowing himself to be reached by any kind of responsibility. We could say that he continually disappoints others, but paradoxically, this disappointment has a great part in his creativity, just as animals create a fake bait to catch prey or escape a predator. He attracts the people he needs to surround himself with, but then betrays their expectations. In doing this, the work is created almost in secret, almost surreptitiously, almost unconsciously. Just as Guido says that the film will not be made, we see before our eyes Fellini's film 8½, now concluded. In this process, Guido also fears deceiving the audience about his creative abilities, and fears that he has exhausted his creative vein.
I know I'm a total disappointment to everyone.
The feeling of doubt and insecurity that accompanies the pursuit of creative abilities is a common theme in films, as seen in Terry Zwigoff's Ghost World. Enid, a teenager who has just graduated high school, struggles to figure out her place in the world and experiences feelings of inadequacy and uncertainty about her creative abilities, particularly her talent for art. Throughout the film, Enid questions whether she has what it takes to navigate the world that awaits her, and whether she can make a career out of her passion for art. Her struggle with the imposter syndrome is relatable for many creatives who doubt their abilities and compare themselves to others. She becomes disillusioned with the idea of being an artist, believing that she is not talented enough and doubting whether she can make a career out of her passion for art.
Let me know as soon as you can, Enid. This could be a really great thing for you.
Why didn't they call me? Oh, I'd just love to see them. Let's drive over.
Another film that can represent the creative aspect of this process of disappointing others and continuous escape from life situations is the film The Swimmer, starring Burt Lancaster and directed by Frank Perry in 1968. The character crosses a residential area dotted with villas, swimming from one pool to another and meeting different people. The actor's barefoot and shirtless body crossing the fences between houses and continuing to immerse himself in the pool water, which is presumed to get colder and colder as the day goes on, conveys a sense of subtle embarrassment and fragility. But the character continues somewhat courageously on his mission, which in the eyes of others seems to have no meaning. Disappointment can be a way to escape from the expectations of a society whose values are not shared. It can be a way to create a space of personal freedom. And it can also be a sign of immaturity, as we see in the famous Budweiser commercial, where a group of young men exchange greetings while completely relaxed, lying on the couch, sheltered from any expectation that society may exert on them. Or as we see in the movie The Hangover, where a group of young men get involved in a series of incredible misadventures that risk preventing one of them from reaching the wedding appointment.
1.
In contemporary societies, the word procrastination has become fashionable, a word that defines a constant attempt to postpone the commitments that must be faced. Implementing inadequate and inconclusive attitudes and actions is a mechanism used in a large number of comedies and comedic films, to the point that a philosopher like Henry Bergson considers comedy as the appearance of a mechanical and inadequate reaction in the world of living beings. A master of the art of disappointing others was undoubtedly comedian Andy Kaufman, who never fails to surprise his audience in all of his characters. However, his constant escape creates a type of comedy that constitutes his success, playing a character whose cognitive abilities do not seem up to the task, and transforming himself continuously into another character who disappoints the moral expectations of the audience with gravely incorrect behavior and language. While a character like Andy Kaufman makes us laugh at things we perhaps shouldn't laugh at, characters like those in Todd Phillips' The Joker or Martin Scorsese's The King of Comedy disappoint the expectation of laughter and reveal themselves as tragic and even violent and aggressive characters. But maybe this shift in expectations makes them even more fascinating.
You're serious, aren't you? You're telling us you killed those 3 young men on the subway?
Mm-hmm.
And why should we believe you?
Got nothing left to lose.
In music and visual arts, revolutions and paradigm shifts are often linked to the disappointment of audience expectations, as happened in the case of the advent of abstract art or the reports of fights during the premiere of Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring. What did the audience think during the first exhibition of Marcel Duchamp's Fountain? Some of them surely felt deeply offended. In the second half of the 1970s, a musical genre like punk exploited this effect extensively, creating a style that completely disregarded expectations in terms of musical virtuosity, which characterized previous genres like progressive rock, and adopted a highly provocative personal attitude that, however, brought a breath of truth and freedom in communication and lifestyles.
It's what?
Nothing, a rude word. Next question.
No. What was the rude word?
Shit.
Was it really? Good heavens, you frightened me to death.
All right.
Childhood is obviously the age that is subject to expectations the most, as who has not been asked what they want to be when they grow up? The children's answers, I want to be a firefighter, an astronaut, a soccer player, represent all programs destined to be in vain. As in the movie 8½, Guido builds a project too big to be completed, so the child's life plan creates a sort of bubble of inflated expectations that may burst, perhaps leaving them space to create their own existence. In our creative work, to what extent is it important to create expectations? To what extent is it important to disappoint them? How many times have great artists found turning points in their work simply by disregarding the expectations that their previous style had imposed on the audience, as in the case of Bob Dylan's Electric Turn in the Highway 61 album? To what extent are we capable of having the courage to disappoint others to bring about a creative turning point in our lives and activities?